Hi, my name is Tia Grubb, and I am the author of The Lesser Devil, the first book in the Keening Chronicles. It is a horror dark fantasy novel, and it is self-published. My book's about a modern pagan witch that lives in the South. Her name is Lydia, and she soon finds herself being pulled into a world she didn't even believe in. She always had some gifts. She could see energy, she could, cast a salt circle and so on, but she never believed in the fantastical. She was a very practical witch. And she soon finds that she's being pulled one way by the hounds of heaven and the other way by the Bahalel. Bahalel are the creatures that go bump in the night. The hounds of heaven are leftovers from the Inquisition, and they have their own plans. And she has to struggle with her inner demons and the demons that are around her. I chose to be self-published because I found that I was having a very difficult time doing the traditional route, in the way that, you would do a query letter and you would go the standard way of doing things. And I would send out, and then the agent would be like, hey, we'll tell you if we hate you or we love you in about 6 weeks. And some of them even said 3 months. And I just sat and waited. I'm not a very patient person, especially since I've been working on this project for 3 years. And I'm the type of person, if you tell me a time frame, I expect you to be able to keep your word. And if you can't keep your word, why would I want to work with you? And I find that none of the agents that I was querying kept their word, or even remotely close to their word on their timescale. And I only heard back from one agent 2 months after her deadline that she said that she would get back to me. And by that point, I had already made the decision not to do traditional publishing, because why depend on someone else when I can do it all myself? And I know my time scale. I know that I will reach my goals, and I don't have to depend on somebody else that can't even respect me enough to keep to their own schedule. And I'm also a control freak. I wrote this book in a reaction to getting fired from a job because I was not their kind of Christian. They didn't know that I was pagan, but this is not the first time this has happened. Living in the South and not being a Christian is very difficult. And a lot of times you have to stay in hiding. And that always pissed me off. Well, after I got fired from that job, and that's not the first time I've gotten fired from a job for not being Christian, I got pissed off and I got angry and I wrote a fucking book. And I had a lot to say. And luckily it took the form of a pretty good story. But there's definitely an undertone of a lot of the experiences that I've had in the South and being different. And I hope I handled it well. People have read my book and said that I did. I was a little afraid of exposing myself in that way, and exposing my struggle with the prejudice that is the Southern Christian right. And this is the type of place where you go into a job interview and they ask you what church you go to. That's what the South is. And if you don't answer them, then they don't trust you. If you're not wearing a cross, then they automatically shun you. And that is what my book is an answer to. And my book has a lot of fantasy elements in it, But there are many scenes, of course they've been bumped up and spiced up a little bit, but they are based on a lot of things that have happened to me. There's more truth in it than I would care to admit. But it was a very cathartic thing to do. Writing that book was very helpful and helped me sort out my own issues and helped me purge my anger in a very constructive way instead of destructive way. I decided to self-publish because I'll have more control over my book and I could say what I wanted to say, how I wanted to say it. A lot of the actual horror in my book is dealing with being an outsider, struggling to fit in and trying to find peace in yourself and accepting who you are, while you have people pulling at you, making decisions for you, reminding you how evil you are because you are not like them. And it gets a little dark and it gets a little twisted. Gotta keep it interesting. Took me about 3 years to write, and most of that was editing, I won't lie. It was a very difficult book to write, especially since it was my first book. I really had to break through a lot of barriers. I'm very proud of this book. It came out a lot better than I ever thought it would. I guess when you're writing your first novel, you always have those doubts in your mind. You have this grand plan, but when you really get into the mud of it, it kind of bogs you down, and all those doubts and fears kind of get in your head. But the journey was hard, but it was so worth it. I am starting on my second book of The Wendigo Rising. And, it's hard to get traction. But, right now I have the ideas coming to me, and the ideas are fitting together. They're like puzzle pieces. And I'm looking forward to really getting to work on that. And hopefully it'll be less than 3 years. I'm hoping for a year. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know. I'm really enjoying this. I feel like this is what I should have been doing the whole time. I've been wasting my life doing other crap. This is what I was supposed to be doing. And I am so thankful. And I can't wait to see what 2016 holds for me. If you're curious about my book, check it out on Amazon. It's available on Kindle and print on demand. And if you need more information, check out the reviews. Or you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, or WordPress at Tia M. Grubb. May the night protect you as you protect the night.